The markets are open and they are pumping, ladies and gentlemen. The Bears are running for the hills. The Bulls are on parade. We're going to be diving into all of that and more today on Money Never Sleeps. Welcome back, everyone. Appreciate you being here with us. As we get going here today, hit that like button, just like our man Ace is saying. Welcome back, buddy. Subscribe to our channel. Nothing Kevin or I say is financial advice. We are not financial advisors. We're a few guys who love following the markets. So please do your own research before making any buys or sells. Kev, we got data this morning that started the day off on a high note. You know, the financial markets are responding well. TradFi was liking it. And then we got some news around the SEC and Grayscale, and that sent crypto pumping. We saw some big old green candles on BTC, on ETH, on Solana. It has been a wild morning so far. I'm loving it. How are you feeling today?
Yeah, once the sickening gut feeling of what I knew was inevitable happened, again, I was afraid of this on the show yesterday, right? We were talking about there's a possibility it could go up. Fucking did. Is what it is, right? I hope everyone's safe still. But yeah, this kind of just confirms where we are in this market. I take it as a pro just because I think that this is going to tell us exactly where we are going into September. And I'm looking at this both on I'm going to pull up what Mr. House just said because that's literally why we're here today. Not literally, but it's part of the reason why. And they've definitely made some money off of it. But yeah, it is what it is. We're here. We shot up to 28K. There's a possibility we're going to go into the charts in a little bit, but we're closing the month off fairly strong right now. We got, a few days left in the month. We're going into some PCE data that comes out on the 31st. I'm not surprised that we're pushing into September on a high note. And I think that if anything, this might be a bit of a trap for people who are feeling extremely overly euphoric right now.
Okay. Yeah, we're looking like we're going to close the month on, in the overbought territory. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but let's get to some of the data first, because that was quite promising this morning, and we saw it reflected in Fed funds rate futures. Say that a bunch of times fast. So we saw the JOLTS data come out at 10 a.m. Eastern. Expectation was for openings of 9.5 million jobs after 9.2 last month. Under expectation, came in at 8.8. So we're seeing a little bit of cooling in the job market. I don't think it's anything to get too crazy excited about. The Fed is going to like seeing that progress. So I think this is absolutely going to help with the possibility of skipping in the next meeting. We discussed yesterday that this week was going to probably be a make or break as far as what the Fed does in September. We also saw a much less heralded, but still for me, a data point I like to look at, which is consumer confidence. So it was expected to come in at a score of 116. Previously, is at 114.8. So they're starting to see consumer confidence increase, and it came in down 10 points under expectation at 106.1. So in that data, it's showing that people are definitely concerned about the state of the economy, about energy prices, about food prices, about rent. And so when I see confidence starting to go down, that makes me believe that, okay, maybe we're getting to a point where we can start doing some real buying here, because if fade the public has always been kind of my thing here. And if they're getting less confident, I want to look contrarian. I want to see where opportunities are. Not saying to go buy anything right now, right? But if we're seeing that consumer confidence go down, that means we're also probably going to see at some point consumer spending coming down. And that's what the Fed wants. And that's going to help fight inflation. And then we're going to be able to stop raising rates, eventually pause for a while, and then pivot. It's going to be a while till the pivot comes. I don't think it's happening anytime soon. Definitely not this year. But if we continue to see more data through the week, we get private sector employment data tomorrow. We get Q2 GDP revision tomorrow. Thursday is the big day with PCE, personal income, and that spending number that I want to see. Also, the personal income number, just, how are we keeping up with increases in income? And then finally, Friday is going to be jobs. So this, once again, big week. It's been fun so far. It's been volatile so far. I'm loving it. So that is everything on the data front. And then, Kev, we had the news from the SEC. A judge in the trial with them and Grayscale basically said that they're not giving them, the SEC isn't giving Grayscale like the same opportunities that it has for other similar investment opportunities in the past, and so they need to kind of redo this thing. I think people are overreacting to it. By no means is this a home run, slam dunk, whatever else sports analogy you want to toss out there, that we're going to see it, the spot ETF get approved, but it's a step in the right direction, and the markets got very, very excited about that.
Yeah, absolutely. One note real quick, I just want to bring up on, employment, or, some of the numbers we got today. I just wanted to say that we did get a revision of those jobs from, last month as well. Those were down pretty significantly. So it seems like we are in this revisionist territory right now for data. So even though it comes in, very hot, the market tends to react on that. We need to look at how these revisions play out, because those are going to be a bit of more of an accurate picture. The other thing is also, doesn't surprise me that we got the revision, and we have consumer confidence down as well. And the number also came down as well for job openings. That just kind of plays into this, triumvirate of, maybe consumers stop spending. So then, some of these companies stop making as much money. So then they have to cut somewhere. And then job listings, jobs, they cancel them, or they don't create any new ones. And it kind of feeds into this self-fulfilling recession that we're talking about anticipating. So this is kind of what you have to keep in mind with some of this data coming out. It's kind of working together right now, but it hasn't been anything significant. Now on Grayscale, this is what's really funny about it. Nothing really changes here. They just wanted to turn their holdings into a Bitcoin ETF, right? They still have to apply. It's very similar to how BlackRock and Fidelity and all these other, companies that are applied for these Bitcoin ETFs are going to have to get approved by the SEC. Now, Gary Gensler's gotten a couple of kicks to the balls in the past few SEC court filings, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they've just been facing, Ripple, Grayscale, and everyone's really bullish that they're going to approve the Bitcoin ETF. It's like, you know what? Let me take one for the team. I'll help you guys out. I personally think this is a buy the rumor, sell the news event, right? It's what it seems like to me. I don't think that they're going to be. I mean, if they're fighting some of these companies already this hard to get just the approval to apply for a Bitcoin ETF, are they going to approve it? No, there's nothing legally holding them to approve any of this stuff right now. They could definitely postpone this to the last absolute date, and there'd be nothing wrong. People would just be pissed as shit on Twitter, right? And all these bulls that bought that are hoping that the price goes up, that's 100% what it'd be. But there's no gun to their head saying you have to approve this right now. So I think that this is a bit of an overblown situation. It was in the charts. I charted it last night. I tweeted out last night that there was a good chance we go to like 27.2. We shot up above that, but it liquidated a lot of positions. We'll look at that when we look at the charts. But I think that we are still pretty far away from getting an absolute approval of a Bitcoin spot ETF.
Yeah, we're seeing the entire market moving right now. Total market cap closing in on 1.1 trillion again. Another piece of news that came out earlier is that Twitter, X, whatever the hell you want to call it, is one step closer to accepting crypto payments and being able to use crypto via their platform. That sent the price of useless coin Doge up almost 6% today, as the people there are anticipating that it will be the official payment token of X, which there's as not based in any sort of fact, just due to the fact that due to people knowing that Elon likes Doge. And I mean, would it surprise anyone if Elon launched his own crypto? Hell no. He's said that they won't. I don't believe a word the guy says. We'll see what his actions are. But that's been another funny thing to look at and see that crypto being accepted on X is going to be a huge, huge deal, apparently. Ad share revenue paid out in Doge. Yep. There you go. House, I think we're going to need to get a few more impressions every month for us to get that ad share revenue in Doge, the world's most stable of currencies. So that is the other piece of news on the day that I wanted to cover. What else did you have in mind, Kev?
Yeah, I think there's more in the charts today than news itself. I just tweeted out something about Binance and the SEC filings that they go to Twitter and read that. I haven't done too much research on it, but it's very interesting. Kind of shows you that maybe there is some type of investigation with the DOJ, or they have witnesses or whistleblowers of some sort that are intertwined with Binance, and the SEC doesn't want any of this information getting out. Definitely a really good read, but that's something that you should keep an eye on. We'll talk about it more in the week as we find out more information. But as of right now, I think we should go to traditional finance. We should look at how the stocks are doing, how the indexes are doing, and the dollar, because this is extremely interesting to me how we are closing out this month. And this seems like the perfect opportunity for people who didn't get out early to get out now. I'm not saying that's what they're doing or that's what you should be doing, but I think that this is a bit of a retail pump, and retail for some reason checks out when the prices are down and they check back in when the prices are at the top. So let's take a look at this. We're going to pull up the DXY first because the DXY is getting rejected here. Let me remove this. So I'm seeing a lot of bulls right now that are bearish on the dollar, right? And obviously the dollar's overbought here. If we take a look at this, we can see that it got rejected off the top of this parallel channel, but we can see that we've been trading this channel since November of 2022. So FTX, right? Broke into it, bottomed there in February, topped in March, didn't come down as low back in April, but we topped again in June, bottomed in July, and now here we are at the top in August. Now, do people think that the dollar's dead? Sure. I think a lot of people are expecting the dollar to continue to go down to some of these levels, maybe like the 102, 101, somewhere in this mid range. I think that's fairly fine, right? If you're counting the dollar out here, in my opinion, I think that's a big mistake. And again, that's because we have an absolute bull flag here, and we're making lower highs and lower lows. That tends to tell me that okay, this is going to break at some point. Maybe on the daily, we're extremely overbought, right? If we take a look at the weekly, getting close to overbought too. But if we take a look at the monthly, which is the most important one, I think, right here, because it's going to be the most important one for what we're seeing going into September. Look at this. This is completely oversold and it hasn't broken. And once it does break, we have all these targets to go to the upside. I'm not saying that the dollar is going to be resilient going forward, especially if we see economic collapse. It's probably going to see a massive sell-off because rates are going to be cut and then people are going to start moving their money into safer things, maybe precious metals, maybe into some, low interest accounts where they can make. What was that? Dogecoin? Yeah, maybe if Dogecoin has that 69% APR on X, then possibly that could be a place where you could stake. I don't even know. That was a terrible joke. Pretty much though, people are going to move their money out of the dollar because the markets are going to be collapsing. The rate's going to be coming down, and then that's what you would anticipate. But for the time being, right now, I think the dollar has a lot of room to the upside, and what we're seeing is a bit of a fake out. And I think that we're going to see it start to rise more in September as opposed to the end of this month. I think if we get really bad data out of PCE or sticky data, then obviously we're going to break this channel and we're going to go up to that 105.651.
With that would this as well, Kev, I think talking about China also and all of the concern over there with the fact that like nothing they do is working to kind of revive the economy. And if China continues to go down, the rest of Asia goes down. They had this whole BRICS concept of how they're going to help, reduce the world's dependency on the dollar. But if China starts to eat shit, if Russia continues to struggle, BRICS is not going to be the powerhouse that people were expecting. And it seems like it's heading that way in for the time being. We'll talk about the Hang Seng here in a minute, but that is something that is going to also potentially be a big upside for the dollar is continued disaster of economic recovery in China.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And BRICS, maybe in the future, very strong, not today. I think that's, again, in infancy. People are still going to return to the dollar. The dollar is extremely strong. Again, the fact that it's held above 100 pretty much for months at this point tells me that there is still some fear in the markets that something bad will happen and people are, ready to jump into the dollar any given time. And we can see that, it's not coiling up, but it's definitely building up to the point where it's going to break. And we'll look at Bitcoin too, because Bitcoin had a similar type of thing where it was just in this range. And then once it finally did break, it was, absolutely catastrophic today. But the dollar, we're going to keep an eye on that. Speaking of China, let's just go to the Hang Seng because I thought this was really interesting. Here we are, TVC. So this is the monthly look for the Hang Seng, right? And we know that in the past few days, China's been ordering banks pretty much to buy tons of stocks. But we see how overbought it's getting quite quickly, but at the same time, it's not really pushing up too much in price. So like you said, nothing is really working over there, even if they have the 50% reduced trading fees, and even if they have stimulus that's pretty much going on, they just can't get a break in the market itself. Now, this is dangerous because we're going to take a look at the Hang Seng now on the monthly. Here we are. This would be the first time in history of the Hang Seng, this index, that we would get a death cross on the monthly. What happens? This would be absolutely new territory. We know that China's been in, an economy that's been growing since, 80s, massively, right? Where it's just absolutely strong. We see how much they've grown since the turn of the millennium. It's fucking since 2000 to where they are now. They just, pretty much caught up to the US. I mean, they're in second place, but in terms of GDP growth, they were on a tear. Now we're seeing, really bad hardship there. And we have this death cross that's possibly going to happen in the next 2 to 3 months. It really depends on where this month and how September looks. But I have a funny feeling that September is not going to be a good month for China either, mainly because they still have that black cloud over their heads, which is pretty much Country Garden is still a huge issue over there.
It's been not even 2 weeks since we got the news of Evergrande, and we still have not seen the full impact of that.
Exactly. And again, a lot of it comes with these shadow banks and people defaulting. They're not making their payments. Well, that's not a good thing. Now, is the Chinese government going to bail them out? I don't know. I'm not an expert on that, but I can tell you this: if Country Garden decides to go tits up and just there's like, oh, we're fucked. There's nothing we could do, and China doesn't really know what to do, or maybe they just say, let it go. That Hank saying is that death cross is coming sooner than you know it, and that's going to bleed into the U.S. markets. I don't care what anyone says. This is absolute contagion. Again, it looks like it's going to happen, right? That we're going to see this death cross in the next few months, but this can happen a lot faster if Country Garden decides to go under, or something catastrophic that isn't even making the news right now happens. Again, it could be China's property crisis, probably will be something along those lines, but we're gonna have to keep an eye on that. But I just wanted to bring this up because this has not been anywhere. I've not seen this anywhere, and if this goes, this will be making history. So let's move over to the major indices, because
real quick, I do, just to go kind of off topic for a second, I think we should start a shadow bank. Not because I think it's a good idea, because it's probably a terrible idea, but it just sounds cool. Like, be shadow bankers. I'm just saying. I just want to toss it out there. Get your feelings on it.
I would be very happy to be a shadow bank somewhere not in the United States, likely somewhere where there's low fees for corporations. I would say somewhere like the Seychelles. That might not be a bad idea. Bahamas, just take over the old FTX compound. Just have to wipe down everything from all the massive orgies that they had, losing all our money.
We're getting live updates of the charts from Mr. House as we speak. Bitcoin bounced back off of, touch 28, right back down again. There's a reason that House is the best in the business and is probably going to be taking my seat permanently sooner than later. But let's keep it moving. Let's go into the Dow. I want to look at the NASDAQ for a bit, and then we can jump over into crypto.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I think that what we're seeing here, and I said it last night on Twitter, I think that we are in a place right now where the markets are going to pump going into September, and it's so obvious because of some of these patterns that we're seeing in the markets. I haven't taken a look at the Dow itself. Very funny. I actually really like that one. Let's see. This is the monthly. We can see that we're pumping up into resistance, right? We got rejected from this resistance up here, and the monthly stochastic RSI for the Dow is extremely overbought. I'm not necessarily seeing it right here on the Dow, but maybe it's on the weekly. I just got to clear up some of my charts because I'm a messy boy. Yeah, you know what? Here it is. It is there. Okay. I'm thinking of a three-wave correction, right? But we got rejected here, so that's wave one down. We're seeing a bit of a bounce. That's wave two. Guys, you know what comes after wave two?
Wave three.
Wave three, and if it's impulsive, impulsive, it's good counting. If it's impulsive, then that's usually the biggest wave of them all, right? And that tends to create a trend in the market. And I think that there's going to be an ABC correction for a lot of these. I've been talking about that forever. You can see it in some stocks. They're really easy to find in some stocks. The Dow is a little bit, more tricky because, again, we've been in this range above this 34,347. We got the weekly close below it last week, but we're clearly 500 points, 400, 500 points above it right now. I think that we are going to see more upside probably to go into the close of this month, but I wouldn't be surprised if September we start to see some massive pullbacks. And it doesn't have to just end in September. It could be September into October, and we just see massive pullbacks in some of these indices. Let's pull up the NASDAQ. I think the NASDAQ's easier one. Yeah, NASDAQ's the one I saw it easier in. So I'll get rid of this ABC, but we can see that wave one came down. This is wave two. Now, this is the problem where everyone thinks that, okay, it's not going to go down from here. This is really deceptive because if we're getting caught up in this wave two, it's going up, it's going to, retest up here, you're going to get caught out because it's going to come back down. Because look at the daily, completely overbought, right? If we look at the weekly, obviously we're oversold on the weekly. We'll probably change a little bit by the end of Friday. If we look at the monthly, though, completely overbought. and we are overbought going into possibly one of the worst months for the stock market on history for Bitcoin. September, October, not great months in the stock market again. And the reason why we see really bad months in September, October is because everyone's coming back. We have to close out our positions from Q3 and then prepare for Q4. And if we anticipate a bad Q4, then maybe we might try and front load it going into Q3, the end of Q3. So that's kind of the reasoning for why we see a lot of pain, in those months. And I don't think this is any different, especially when you look at how much we've had green since the beginning of the year, right? January, we had one bad month. Really, that was February, and the next bad month we had was August. But look at this. We've shot up on the NASDAQ from the low to where the high was around 53%, right? It's a great move. Not going to deny it. But then we see that we're finding resistance on this line up here. So that tends to tell me that, okay, this is one massive correction, and we're going to have to see more downside. And I think that we are seeing the beginnings of the wave 2 into the wave 3. And, it just, you say 2 more days, we, sustain this somewhere around here. Maybe we trade, fill one of these gaps over here. And I think that we're just setting ourselves up for, disappointment. And again, we're seeing the dollar go down. So we're anticipating, the dollar is going to continue to be weak. Not so fast. I think that we need to be cautious here. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But at the same time, we need to be aware that this is very possible. Just like this pump today was very possible, I think that this is even more detrimental if it does come to fruition. And again, we got 200 EMA down here at 13,746. So that's a massive move if it does go down there. And if we look at this on the weekly, 13.6, 13.7 is where the 50 moving average on the weekly is. And again, these moving averages are pretty far off from each other, and we haven't really tested this 50 moving average in quite some time. Last time was in March, and I think that we should be anticipating some type of move where we do retest this at some point. Whether we hold it or not, that remains to be seen. S&P, very similar thing. You see, got a little bit of a bounce here, but I'm still anticipating that. So that's the major indices. Is there anything you wanted to talk about on the NASDAQ? Because I remember you said you wanted to bring it up.
I think we're good. If we want to move over to crypto, we can take a look. BTC just once again touched 28 for a couple seconds and is fighting for that level. So I want to jump into Bitcoin. We see that Bitcoin dominance has reclaimed 50, so it's back up there. The dominance of USDT and USDC have fallen sharply today as people move those stables back into the market. So I think a lot to discuss here.
Absolutely. So I'm going to clear up some of this chart because we don't necessarily need it now. I think this is fairly clear to me what's going on. But again, I could be wrong. I think that this is what we need to keep in mind, though. We saw that Bitcoin came down here with the Evergrande news, right? It shot all the way down here on the daily, and we were kind of trading in this channel. And there's two things that could have been going on here. We could have seen a continuation pattern, which was this bear pennant, which I thought it was. And I was hoping that it was because I thought that there was a little bit of room down.
You're showing the Dow still.
Guess what? I have so many tabs open, I don't even know what I'm doing. So let me pull up the Bitcoin chart right here. There we go. That's what they don't. I'm not the best in the business for nothing. Here we go. So again, I was anticipating this bear pennant right here, meaning we'd be getting continuation to the downside further, as long as we didn't cross this level up here. This was the low that we got, and that would have been 28,585. Right? We couldn't cross that with this next move to the upside because then that would invalidate our 5-wave structure down. That's why we're seeing some, resistance here on the moving average of the 50 EMA. We broke through the 200, but we hit the 50 EMA, and we see that we're finding pretty good resistance there. But again, we broke through this. This is more of a Bart pattern, so we can get rid of this triangle here. And the reason they call it a Bart pattern is because it looks like Bart Simpson's head. That's literally all you need to know for that. It's stupid, but sometimes it comes to fruition, usually manipulation. There you go, guys. You got Bart Simpson upside down hanging there. But look at this on the stochastic RSI. We're at 51 and 33 on the daily. We shot up $1,852 today. We're up 7%. I don't think it comes as a surprise to anyone that we're probably going to see this stochastic RSI extremely overbought in the next day or so. I'm not saying that it's going to be overbought tonight, but by tomorrow, it for sure should be completely overbought with both meters over it. Going into September, it seems like everything's pretty overbought and there's a lot of liquidity to the downside. I am going to show one thing real quick. I want to show you guys some of the liquidations that we are seeing across the board, because pretty big liquidations that we saw today. So let's go to BTC liquidation levels. There we go. Boom. That's a 24-hour that we're seeing right now. We saw that $65 million worth of Bitcoin was absolutely liquidated from the space, right? See that 28 million from ETH is taken out. We could even see on some of these exchanges, okay, OKX and Binance are the two that are leading. We see Bybit. A lot of weird stuff's been going on. Right. We saw that first off, Grayscale is going to play a huge factor into what happened today. But we also have to keep in mind that we were seeing a lot of TUSD pump into the markets, all going to a Binance hot wallet. Not all of it, but for the most part, it was like 250 $250 million that went into Binance hot wallets minted out of thin air. So you got to keep that in mind. Bybit was moving tons of Bitcoin off their exchange and pushing it into cold wallets. And if there's not enough Bitcoin on the exchange and there's high demand, supply and demand, guys, the price is going to go up regardless. It seems elevated. It's a good way if you don't have a lot of liquidity to bring the price up. They said that they were going to be doing this. However, it seems pretty ironic that it's happening at this time where the price is going up as the supply on the exchange is quite low, available to sell. I think it pushed the price up a little bit more probably against all other exchanges. So we have to keep that in mind too. But these liquidations are absolutely, pretty ridiculous if we look at some of the 4 hours compared to the 24 hours, right? See, in 4 hours, we liquidated $20 million worth of Bitcoin, 10 million there. In the past 12 hours, even worse, right? So we're liquidating tons of people. And if we look at the liquidation map here with Bitcoin, we can see that we're this red line right here. And if we're looking at this on Binance, sure, there is a little bit of money to be made over here. These orange lines, they tend to be people who are on leverage. Dark orange is 100x leverage, 50x leverage is over here. So if they do want to wipe it out, this red line just needs to cross over, hit that price number, and then come back down. However, I don't think that the price is going to go up there. I think that there's a lot more liquidity to the downside. That's why we're seeing all these lines over here. And there's actually quite a bit of 50x leverage, less than that down here, which tells me that there's a good chance that we could wipe out those at 25K. I think the price is probably going to go down lower based off our wave structures, but I just want to give you guys an idea of how price does move and why it's moving in certain areas. I anticipated 27.2, where that was the most of the liquidations last night would get hit. It did. And now we see that people who are now going long, they can get liquidated on the reverse coming back down. So that's what you need to keep in mind with some of these liquidation levels. And I was doing the same for Binance too last night with my position. Just wanted to see where it could possibly go. 230 seemed to be the right place. And now we can see, look at that. Tons of people in the past 7 days that are probably going to get liquidated as the price comes pushing back down here. It's a lot more liquidation to the left than there is to the right, which means that a lot more people who are going long too late are going to get liquidated on the way down. It's just the way it is. They're going to move money regardless. And again, towards the end of the month, going into September, we all know it's probably going to be bad. It's a pretty good trap for a lot of people to go long late and then liquidate them. And then the market continues doing business as usual. So that's just a good thing to keep in mind. Liquidation levels are very important, in my opinion. And we see that that's pretty much what we're seeing in Bitcoin and some of these other ones. But we're not done here because this is the important shit that we need to get into. And that is some of these daily close for today and watching these moving averages. So we're going to pull up ETH. Guys, it's almost, but it's not quite. Look at that. That's almost got the death cross in the daily, right? And it seems pretty ironic that we got this push to the upside. Maybe it's trying to delay that death cross. Who knows? Again, didn't get above the 200 EMA. You're not closing above the 50. It's not going to reverse too much. It's probably going to slow it down just a little bit. But if we do see a bearish engulfing candle that brings us down over the next few days, that's going to be a death cross. I gave it 2 days as of last night. Maybe 3 days, maybe Thursday when the monthly close happens. That's when we'll find out if this does cross. But we have to see how the price action reacts. And if we pull out here on ETH, we can see that this is another 5-wave move that we're anticipating. Wave 1, wave 2, wave 3. Wave 4 didn't go higher than wave 1, so we can move that up here. Wave 1 is down here, so that means that this is still valid for another wave 5. And the higher that wave 4 goes, that means the lower that wave 5 will go. I'm not saying it's going to go down to 1463. That's a pretty good target, I think, because there's a lot of liquidations that would occur around that 1460 level. So who knows? I'm going to keep that right around there. I think that's going to be a safe, that's a pretty modest target, I think. Doesn't have to go there instantly, but I think over the coming days, weeks, we could see ourselves arrive at 1463. I don't think that's too out of the question. If we look at the daily stochastic RSI, extremely close to being overbought. It's going to be overbought today. And if we look at the weekly, while the weekly is down, sure, that could stay oversold for a period of time. I want to take a look at the monthly. Monthly is just as important. Monthly's overbought. So we know that the move is coming down. Man, there's a fire hydrant or a fire engine going by my house right now. Hope everyone's all right. But yeah, this is this is what I'm looking at. I think that everything seems pretty overbought on the monthly. We can look at Bitcoin, same as ETH, right? Overbought on the monthly. Those are the big boys. Even if we look at some of these alts, even though they're down on the day, on the monthly, we can see that they're up on the day, stochastic RSI wise. And once again, Bitcoin dominance being over 50%, it's a pretty good move. That means that if Bitcoin does decide to dump, alts are likely to bleed just a little bit more. So I think that this is where we are in this market. It's not necessarily a great place to be for some of these positions. It's easy to be trapped in to believe that everything is okay. I think that this is nothing more than the perfect trap for a lot of people who are expecting us to keep pushing up. Bitcoin dominance is a huge factor there. The fact that it's so high, and then some of these alts are, they're being capped. They had a pretty good move up. They're about 4% for some of these, 5% for Matic. We can see like some pretty good moves, but they're not ripping today. Bitcoin dominance remains really strong. We're gonna have to see how this plays out. Again, I honestly think for Bitcoin, I'm gonna stick with this too. This 5-wave move here, 3, say 4 there, and then 5. I'm going to say 5 goes below that, and I'd say 5 sticks around this 23.6. I think 23.6 is a pretty good level for Bitcoin. Keep that in mind. And then total 3, we can see that shot straight up. It got rejected off the 50 moving average on the daily. Not surprised there. Going to the total, we shot all the way up on the daily to the 50 moving average and the 200. Guys, that death cross is right there too. So if we see a bit of a dump here, that's going to absolutely fall through. And then the total market cap on the daily is going to be in a bearish state of play. And the last time that we saw, the death cross there, obviously it was this move here from February into March. I don't think that's substantial. If we look back further, I think we're going to get a better answer of what's likely to happen. This is January 2022. I don't want that. I want a bear market one. Bear market, it's 2018 most likely. So just bear with me. Pun there.
Good
yeah.
one.
I'm an asshole. Yeah, here's the 50 crossing the 200 there, and then we see that was just the downtrend for the longest period of time. So that's what we're keeping an eye on, right? I think that yes, we liquidated a lot of people. Yes, the market's pretty green today, but for the most part, guys, always keep in mind where you are in this market. We're going into the end of Q3, going into Q4, September, October. Been beating this drum till there's no fucking skin on it anymore. This is where we are in this market. I don't think that this is necessarily a bullish state of play. I think that getting rejected off these EMAs and closing below them continues to be bearish. And I think right now, more than anything, this is a scam pump that's pretty much going to get people in at the wrong time. Continuation is inevitable. We might get some bounces along the way, but I think continuation is inevitable. I just hope everyone remains safe. Again, remember, low leverage. Don't overextend yourself here. And then remember, there's no necessarily point in trying to force trades. I think a lot of people try to force things, and that's why we see these people that are longing too late. FOMO is not going to do you any favors. Just stay calm, stay calculated, and think longer term than just your account going green for the day. Think months, years in terms of your plays. That's what's going to save you and get you across the line. Almost out of August, survive August, and then September, October should be a lot better for bears.
Too soon, Junior. All right. That is going to wrap it up for today. Great stuff as always. We'll be back tomorrow right around the same time. We're working some scheduling stuff this week, but do not fear. We will be here. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Hit those buttons down below. Yeah. All right. Chris, I'm not really.
It's you.
Yeah. It's me. You're right. It's totally me. I'm totally dictating the direction of the market. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, comment, tell Chris he's an asshole, and make sure to share us out on social media. All of those things are extremely important, especially the one about Chris being an asshole. All right. Appreciate you, everybody. Have an awesome rest of your day, and we will see you next time.
Take care, everyone. Shadowbank out.